Rethinking Economics in the Age of Runaway Climate Change. The New York Times a few days ago, and in particular, the quotes in the second paragraph: even with a deal to stop the current rate of greenhouse gas emissions, scientists warn the world will become increasingly unpleasant. But then it goes on to say, without a deal, they say the world could eventually become uninhabitable for humans. Now, this is a watershed. For the New York Times to be allowing this to go to print is a new level of realization of the problem in the human imagination. To start off with, I want to make something very clear. In my mind, here at COP20, we are seeing not a negotiation between the global north and the global south, as it's often framed. We are seeing a negotiation occurring between those who would protect life on Earth and those who would protect financial interests. That is the heart of the negotiations going on right now. Recently, scientists realized that the decline in Arctic sea ice is not linear as it had been thought for many years. It's exponential. It's curving downward. And some scientists say there may be no Arctic ice in late summer as early as next year. The one thing about climate change is that we find it's always going faster, and the effects are worse than are predicted by the famous IPCC report. Back to the Arctic, and I want to call your attention to that particular area, the East Siberian Arctic Shelf, because there's something going on the East Siberian Arctic Shelf that we should be very concerned about. This is another representation of the East Siberian Arctic Shelf. It's a ledge of submerged, previously above water land. During ice ages, when there's a significant amount of water stored in glaciers, ice on land, that shelf, that Arctic shelf, was exposed and had rich, abundant life. When that life became submerged, it decayed. When you see the decay of organic matter in the presence of oxygen, you get CO2 and H2O predominantly. When organic matter decays in the absence of oxygen, anaerobic conditions, you get methane. There is estimated to be somewhere between 500 and 5,000 gigatons, billion tons of methane stored in this region, about 2,000 kilometers long. What you're seeing here is a vent of methane from one of several hundred vents that were found in the early part of this century. When scientists go back to look at these vents, instead of being a few meters across, some of them are hundreds of meters across, some of them are kilometers and hundreds of kilometers across. The Arctic is releasing a huge amount of methane currently. And as the note at the bottom of the screen says, methane is many times as powerful a greenhouse gas as CO2. And I'll say many because the number varies depending upon your time frame. If you look at the first year after the methane is released, it's approximately 150 or more times as powerful. Over a 20-year period, it's 80 to 90 times as powerful. Over a 100-year period, it's 20 to 30 times as powerful. But our concern is the first few years, because that's when it does the most damage to the Arctic. And it sets off a runaway pattern, a feedback, a vicious cycle, as it's called.
With 2 degrees has been taken arbitrarily as the level beyond which nasty things happen. I don't know why 2 degrees, but that will be reached by the middle of the century, 4 degrees by the end of the century. Now, 4 degrees, people who calculated what that would do to food production, to die-off of forests, to acceleration of warming due to various extra feedbacks that kick in, that the general conclusion is pretty dire, that if you get to 4 degrees of warming, then collapse of civilization is what's going to happen, because the world won't be able to sustain anywhere near its present population. So the result would be chaos, warfare.
Now, this is no ordinary scientist. Dr. Peter Wadhams works at the University of Cambridge, Cambridge University. He's been going in nuclear submarines underneath the Arctic, turning the sonar up to look at the ice pack from underneath for 30 or 40 years. He has over 300 peer-reviewed papers. He is one of the world's foremost experts on the ice pack, and he believes that the late summer Arctic ice could be all gone as soon as next year. We know that the IPCC report has a history of underestimating the severity and the speed of onset of the phenomenon that it discusses. And this methane release, in this one scientist's estimation, brings forward that warning.
And now with this Arctic methane, you're simply adding another element to the warming, even if it's only an extra 0.6. That brings forward the date at which catastrophic warming is achieved by another 20 years.
In my view, it's that just a few thousand people will be seeking refuge in the Arctic or Antarctica. From 7 to 9 billion of us, this scientists believe with 4-degree temperature, the 4-degree C hotter planet, there will be just a few thousand of us left. At present, we are trading the rich and abundant life of the planet Earth for money. We are chopping it up, digging it up, burning it up, fishing it out as quickly as possible. For what? To create more money. But you can't eat money. And guess what? When humanity goes, money goes with it. About 100 years ago, it was a coup staged by Wall Street bankers by buying the chairmanships of certain prestigious university economics departments in the United States. And pretty soon all universities were teaching neoclassical economics, and competitors for the minds of economists were forced out. This is the name of the broken system. Unless you start from a place of ecology, of a healthy ecology, you will never have a sustainable economy on Earth. You cannot grow something forever within a limited container. And neoclassical economics denies the relevance of the limits of Earth.